Hello and welcome to the Head-to-Head Fantasy Football League, the video series following myself, Tony, and my friends' Head-to-Head Fantasy Football League. And this week is game week 11. And it's been another interesting week, to be fair. We've seen the cruelty of the head-to-head format, whereby someone having a very good score meaning nothing because it wasn't quite as good as the person they were matched up against that week, even though it was much better than many other people in the league. We've seen people who don't even understand who's actually in their team. And we've seen David spending more time studying the warm-ups than what happens once the whistle is blown. Now we'll get on to all of these things in due course, but first we're going to have the talking point of the week. We're going to do this probably every week. And each week we're going to pick the most ridiculous or the most interesting thing, and we're going to start with that. And the talking point of this week involves Wayne, which it might do most weeks. And I know what you're thinking, and I don't know why he wears them either. Now, the reason that Wayne is the focus this week is because after Aubameyang scored very early on, this was the message he put on there. He's taken Aubameyang out. And where is Aguero? Now, it's very common for Wayne to be freaking out about one of his players who hasn't scored within the first 35 seconds. But Wayne played against me last week and sold Aguero for Connolly to free up some money. So that confused me, so I thought I'd have a look at his team. Now, I don't know about you, but I can see Aubameyang and I can't see Sergio Aguero. So after pointing this out, turns out Wayne's got more than one team. Instead of having one team and putting in a bunch of leagues, Wayne's got more than one team. Now, Wayne isn't someone I can imagine doing this. This is like Stephen Hawking deciding he's going to go tap dancing. Stick to what you know. Now, for the keen eyes amongst you, you would have spotted in the middle of that conversation, David commented on what idiot would put Lundstram on the bench. Turns out David's that kind of idiot. And you know, as they say,
it was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
So he did what anyone else would do in his position. He spent the rest of the game week wishing death and destruction on the rest of his players. And of course, it didn't happen. So those 21 points that Lundstram earned stayed firmly on his bench. Because of course Son played because Kane was injured. And we all know what happens when Harry Kane gets injured. That means Sahel loses. Because our resident Man United fan, supposedly, although really supports Spurs, has always got 2 or 3 of the lily whites in his team. And so he's probably spending his time crying on his bed right now. Okay. Well, anyway, let's show the league tables and the results of today. Wayne had a rather decisive win this week with whichever team it is he's using in our league up against Akil. I'm not going to mention every game in too much depth, but it's worth mentioning this one because Akil is one of 2 people this week who's used their wild card. So let's have a quick glance at Akil's team. As you can see, there some good players, but also there's a few questionable choices. Tierney, Lovren, and Ozil, to be fair. I mean, obviously, that's a bit of a roll the dice team, considering it's a wildcard team. As I said, only one team had a lower score than him this week, and that featured in the match, which was the Battle of the Attridges, which I'll get to in a moment. Dalron beats David. David will probably have Lovren back, Lundstram, I should say. He'll have Lundstram back in his team next week, based on the idea that Son is now being sent off, so he's going to be having a little ban. In the Battle of the Attridges, Mark has used his wild card and has the lower score of everyone this week. So the bottom 2 scores this week are both wild cards. Mark's team on paper looks pretty good. You know, you can't really argue too much about the choice of talent there. Just obviously not too many players did that great this week. In rounding up most of the other games, let's have a little look. So Abdul has the second highest score of everyone. Only I broke the 80s other than him, but because it's head-to-head, he gets nothing for this, which is another frustrating week for the reigning champion. Terry's carrying on again with that strong run of form that he's having. Dark horse, nobody's really mentioned him too much, but he's racking up the wins. Hettel versus Sahale. Again, Tottenham didn't do so great this week, which means that the Spurs fan Sahale generally is not going to have the greatest game. And finally, Mohamed Udin, the new guy to the team, who I helped choose his team maybe about 8 weeks ago. Again, having a very, very strong run, beating Ryan. So that leads us on to next week's fixtures. Nothing too much of note here in terms of top versus bottom. If I had to say the most interesting game, it would be David's game up against Wayne. That's probably the one to look at. And of course, it is City and Liverpool matching up next week, which will affect our teams. Going through the league table at the moment, Terry and Mohammed both move up into second and third. There's a few places moving up and down here. Delron again moves up a little bit more, as does Wayne and Chris, and Abdul is still rooted at bottom. I have a lead of 7 points at the moment, and not too much to mention on this. Everyone kind of is close to each other. One game week and everyone's moving around, but Abdul now is, I believe, 4 points away from the bottom of the league. So, see you guys next week.